Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you were taught about reality might only be a surface story, a simplified explanation designed to help the human mind navigate existence but not necessarily reveal its deepest structure. The stars that fill the night sky, the planets moving in silent orbits, the laws of physics that scientists describe with elegant equations, even the solid ground beneath your feet that feels so unquestionably real. What if these things are not the ultimate structure of existence but merely the outer shell of something far stranger and far deeper? What if reality, as humanity experiences it, is only the visible layer of a far more mysterious architecture of existence? For the ancient Gnostics, this was not merely philosophical speculation or poetic imagination. It was a profound spiritual revelation about the nature of the universe itself. They believed the material universe hides a disturbing secret. The world that humans see, measure, and touch may not be the true creation of the highest divine intelligence. Instead, it could be a carefully constructed system, a vast cosmic environment designed to keep consciousness occupied, distracted, and unaware of its deeper origin. In their view, the physical universe might function almost like a stage set, convincing and immersive, yet ultimately incomplete. What humans perceive as reality could be only the visible surface of a much larger and more mysterious order of existence that lies hidden beyond ordinary perception. To understand this extraordinary idea, we must first understand how radically different the Gnostic worldview was from the conventional religious story that many cultures inherited. Most traditional belief systems teach that the physical universe was intentionally and perfectly created by a supreme divine being who designed the world with wisdom, harmony, and purpose. In these traditions, the cosmos is often viewed as a reflection of divine order, and the natural world is interpreted as evidence of a benevolent creator whose intelligence shaped every star, every mountain, and every living creature. The Gnostics, however, offered a dramatically different interpretation of existence. In their philosophical and mystical writings, they described the ultimate divine reality as something far more distant from the physical cosmos than most religions imagined. They called this supreme realm the pleroma, a word that means fullness, representing the totality of pure spiritual existence. In their understanding, the pleroma was not made of matter, time, or physical forces. It was a realm of perfect awareness, harmony, and intelligence, a dimension of being beyond decay, beyond suffering, and beyond the limitations that define the material world. Yet according to their mythic philosophy, something unexpected occurred within this spiritual fullness, an imbalance, a disruption in the harmony of the divine order. And from that moment of cosmic disturbance, the material universe as humans know it began to take shape. According to the ancient Gnostic texts, the birth of the material universe began with a cosmic era involving a spiritual entity known as Sophia, whose name means wisdom. In their mythic cosmology, Sophia was one of the emanations or expressions of the divine intelligence that existed within the pleroma. She represented the impulse toward knowledge, curiosity, and creative exploration, the desire to understand existence in its fullness. But within the symbolic narrative preserved in Gnostic writings, Sophia attempted something extraordinary. She sought to create or comprehend existence independently of the divine source from which all things emerged. This act was not portrayed as evil or malicious, rather, it was seen as an imbalance, a movement of creative power that occurred outside the harmony of the divine order. From this imbalance, according to the Gnostics, something unexpected came into being. The result was the emergence of a flawed and incomplete entity, a being possessing immense creative power but lacking the full awareness of the higher divine realm. This being came to be known as the Demiurge. Unlike the luminous intelligence of the pleroma, the Demiurge was described as limited in understanding, unaware of the greater reality beyond itself. Yet despite this ignorance, it possessed the ability to shape matter and structure the cosmos. From its creative activity, the physical universe, with its stars, galaxies, planets, and biological life, began to take form. The most shocking aspect of this story lies in what the Demiurge believed about itself once the universe had taken shape. In many Gnostic writings, the Demiurge looks upon the vast cosmos it has created and declares that it is the only God that exists. It observes the complexity of the universe, the structure of the heavens, the cycles of nature, the emergence of living beings, and assumes that it is the ultimate authority over reality itself. But the Gnostics insisted that this belief was not a sign of divine supremacy. Instead, it was a profound form of cosmic ignorance. The Demiurge, in their view, was like an architect who constructs a magnificent building but remains completely unaware that the land on which the structure stands belongs to a far greater kingdom beyond its sight. In other words, the creator of the material universe did not understand the deeper source from which existence itself ultimately flowed. The physical cosmos, therefore, was not the highest level of reality but only a lower layer within a much larger hierarchy of existence. To the Gnostics, this idea fundamentally changed how one should interpret the world. If the creator of the physical universe lacked complete awareness, then the structures of the material world, including its laws, systems, and hierarchies, might not represent ultimate truth but only the limited perspective of a lesser cosmic power. This interpretation gave the Gnostics a completely different explanation for the strange and often contradictory nature of the physical world that humans inhabit. If the universe were created by a perfect intelligence operating with complete knowledge and harmony, they reasoned, one might expect the world to reflect that perfection clearly. Yet the reality humans observe is far more complex and often troubling. The natural world contains extraordinary beauty, breathtaking landscapes, intricate ecosystems, and astonishing forms of life. But it is also filled with decay, suffering, and constant struggle. Life survives through cycles of destruction. Animals must consume other organisms to live, ecosystems depend on death as much as on birth, and even the human body is constantly breaking down and repairing itself. Entire civilizations rise and fall, and natural disasters reshape landscapes without warning. To the Gnostics, these contradictions suggested that the universe might not be the product of flawless design. Instead, they saw the physical cosmos as a mixture of order and disorder, a world that reflects creative power but also limitation. If the material universe was shaped by a being that possessed immense ability but incomplete understanding, then the presence of beauty alongside chaos would no longer seem mysterious. It would simply reflect the imperfect nature of the creator responsible for shaping the physical realm. Yet the most radical and unsettling part of the Gnostic worldview was not about the structure of the universe itself, it was about human beings. According to their teachings, humanity occupies a unique and paradoxical position within the cosmic order. The Gnostics believed that inside certain individuals there exists a hidden fragment of the higher divine realm, something they described as the divine spark. This spark, they believed, did not originate from the Demiurge or from the physical universe that surrounds humanity. Instead, it came from the higher spiritual reality beyond the material cosmos, the realm of the pleroma itself. In other words, part of the human mind, or perhaps part of human consciousness, might belong to a dimension of existence that is older, deeper, and more profound than the entire physical universe. This idea transformed the way the Gnostics understood human identity. From their perspective, the human body was formed from the element of the material world and therefore belonged to the domain of the Demiurge. But consciousness, the awareness capable of reflection, curiosity, and insight, carried within it a memory of a higher origin. Humans were therefore seen as beings caught between two realities, the physical system that shaped their bodies and the spiritual realm from which their inner awareness ultimately emerged. This belief explains why the Gnostics placed such extraordinary importance on knowledge, though the knowledge they referred to was not the ordinary kind associated with memorizing facts, learning skills, or gathering information about the external world. The word they used was gnosis, a Greek term meaning direct knowing or inner realization. To the Gnostics, Gnosis was a form of awakening that transformed how a person understood both themselves and the universe. It was not something that could simply be taught through lectures or texts. Instead, it was an experimental realization, a moment when an individual suddenly perceives that their true identity is not limited to the physical body, social identity, or the roles imposed by society. According to their teachings, human beings often spend their entire lives identifying with temporary things, their profession, their reputation, their possessions, their nationality, or their place within social hierarchies. Yet from the Gnostic perspective, these identities are only surface layers. Beneath them lies the deeper essence of awareness itself, the hidden spark that originates from the higher spiritual realm. When someone begins to awaken to this realization, their relationship with the material world begins to shift. The structures that once seemed absolute, status, competition, fear of loss, and even death, begin to lose their psychological hold. Gnosis, therefore, was not merely knowledge about the universe, it was the rediscovery of one's deeper origin beyond it. Interestingly, many modern thinkers have noticed subtle parallels between these ancient Gnostic ideas and certain philosophical questions emerging from contemporary science. Of course, modern physics and neuroscience do not confirm Gnostic cosmology in a literal sense. Scientists rely on empirical evidence and testable theories, while Gnostic teachings were expressed through symbolic myths and spiritual interpretations of existence. Yet despite this difference, some of the questions explored in modern scientific research echo the ancient intuition that reality may be far more layered and mysterious than it first appears. In fields such as quantum physics, researchers have encountered phenomena that challenge the traditional assumption that matter is the fundamental building block of reality. At extremely small scales, particles behave in ways that seem almost paradoxical, existing in multiple states at once or appearing to be influenced by observation itself. Meanwhile, studies of consciousness continue to raise difficult questions about whether the mind can be fully explained as a product of biological processes alone. While none of this proves the Gnostic worldview, it has reopened philosophical discussions about the possibility that reality may contain levels of structure beyond the material layer humans normally perceive. In this sense, the ancient Gnostics were participating in a conversation that humanity is still having today, the search to understand whether the visible universe is truly the foundation of existence or merely one expression of something deeper. For the Gnostics, the material world was not simply a prison in the crude sense of physical confinement, it was also a test of perception and awareness. They believed that the structures and systems that shape human society often function in ways that keep people focused entirely on external survival and social competition. From childhood onward, individuals are taught to pursue security, wealth, status, and recognition. While these pursuits may appear natural or necessary within society, the Gnostics believed they also serve another function: they keep human attention constantly directed outward rather than inward. When a person's mind becomes absorbed in the endless pursuit of possessions, reputation, or power, there is little space left for deeper reflection about the nature of existence. The Gnostics suspected that this pattern was not accidental. Instead, they saw the material system itself as something that subtly encourages distraction. If human beings remain preoccupied with external goals, they rarely pause to question the deeper structure of reality or the true nature of consciousness. In this way, the world could operate almost like an elaborate theater of activity, filled with ambitions, fears, and competitions that keep the mind engaged while the deeper mystery of existence remains unexplored. This suspicion about hidden influences within the structure of reality led the Gnostics to describe the universe as being governed not only by the Demiurge but also by lesser cosmic forces known as Archons. In their symbolic mythology, the Archons were described as powerful entities that assisted the Demiurge in maintaining the structure and order of the material system. They were not necessarily portrayed as demons in the simplistic sense, but rather as forces that shape the environment in which human consciousness operates. In some texts, the Archons were associated with the movements of celestial bodies, suggesting that cosmic cycles themselves might influence human perception and behavior. In other interpretations, they represented psychological or cultural forces that shape how people interpret reality. Symbolically, the Archons represented influences that manipulate perception, structures that subtly guide human awareness toward the external world while obscuring deeper insight. Whether interpreted literally or metaphorically, this idea reflects an ancient suspicion that human consciousness is influenced by forces it rarely recognizes. The systems that govern societies, beliefs, and cultural values may appear natural, yet they can quietly shape what people believe about themselves and about reality. To the Gnostics, understanding these influences was an essential step toward awakening. Despite the dark tone that sometimes appears in their cosmology, the Gnostics were not purely pessimistic thinkers. In fact, their teachings contained a powerful message of hope. They believed that although the material universe might be governed by limited or flawed powers, the divine spark within human beings could never be completely extinguished. It might become hidden beneath layers of social conditioning, cultural assumptions, and personal fears, but it remained present deep within human awareness. This inner spark represented a living connection to the higher realm of spiritual reality beyond the material cosmos. Because of this connection, liberation from ignorance was always possible. The path toward awakening, however, required more than belief or ritual. It required a shift in perception, a willingness to question the assumptions that define ordinary life and to look inward for deeper understanding. Through contemplation, reflection, and the pursuit of insight, individuals could begin to rediscover their connection to the higher reality from which the divine spark originated. In this sense, the Gnostic path was not about escaping the world through physical withdrawal but about awakening within it. The transformation occurred not in the structure of the universe but in the consciousness of the individual who begins to see through its illusions. This awakening, in the Gnostic view, did not necessarily require rejecting the material world entirely or withdrawing from human society. Instead, it required learning to see through the assumptions that give the world its apparent authority over the human mind. When someone begins to understand that the structures of the material world, wealth, power, reputation, and social hierarchy are temporary and limited, their psychological relationship to these things begins to change. Fear loses some of its power because the individual no longer believes that identity depends entirely on external circumstances. Ambition becomes less obsessive because success and failure are recognized as events within a temporary system rather than ultimate measures of worth. The awakened person still participates in the world, still works, builds relationships, and navigates society. But internally, their perspective has shifted. They recognize that the structures that once seemed permanent are actually part of a transient layer of reality. In this way, awakening does not necessarily remove someone from the world, it simply changes how they experience it. The person becomes less controlled by the systems that once defined their identity and more guided by the deeper awareness that originates from within. One of the reasons these teachings were considered so dangerous in the ancient world was that they quietly undermined traditional structures of authority. In many societies, religious institutions served as the primary interpreters of reality. They defined the nature of God, explained the meaning of life, and established the moral and spiritual rules by which communities were expected to live. Political power was often intertwined with these religious frameworks, reinforcing social stability by maintaining a shared worldview. The Gnostics, however, introduced an idea that subtly challenged this entire arrangement. If the divine spark truly existed within human consciousness, and if direct spiritual knowledge could arise from within the individual rather than exclusively through institutions, then people would no longer be entirely dependent on external authorities to interpret the nature of reality. Spiritual insight would become a personal experience rather than something mediated solely through priests, temples, or official doctrines. This concept was deeply unsettling for the power structures of the time. When individuals believe that truth can emerge from their own inner awareness, they become less willing to accept rigid systems that claim exclusive access to divine knowledge. In this way, Gnostic philosophy did not merely present an alternative theology, it introduced a radically different understanding of where ultimate authority over truth might reside. For centuries, many of these ideas survived only in fragments or in the writings of critics who opposed them. Entire collections of Gnostic texts were believed to have been lost to history, destroyed during periods when religious authorities sought to eliminate teachings they considered dangerous or heretical. Then, in the 20th century, an extraordinary discovery changed the historical understanding of early spiritual thought. In 1945, near the Egyptian town of Nag Hammadi, a collection of ancient manuscripts was unearthed in the desert. Hidden inside clay jars were dozens of texts written in the Coptic language, many of which contained teachings associated with Gnostic philosophy. Scholars quickly realized that these writings revealed a forgotten chapter of early spiritual exploration. Among the manuscripts were mystical dialogues, symbolic cosmologies, and collections of sayings attributed to spiritual teachers. These texts provided direct insight into how ancient seekers interpreted the nature of consciousness, the structure of the universe, and humanity's place within it. The discovery shocked historians and theologians alike, because it demonstrated that early spiritual traditions were far more diverse and philosophically adventurous than previously assumed. Rather than representing a single unified worldview, ancient religious thought included many competing interpretations of existence, each attempting to answer the deepest questions about reality. The rediscovered writings revealed something even more fascinating. The questions that troubled ancient thinkers were remarkably similar to the questions that continue to occupy humanity today. Across centuries and cultures, human beings have repeatedly asked the same fundamental mysteries. Who or what created the universe? Why does suffering exist in a world that also contains extraordinary beauty? Why do humans possess self-awareness, the strange ability to reflect on their own existence and ask questions about the nature of reality itself? And perhaps most intriguingly, what exactly is consciousness? Is it merely a byproduct of biological processes in the brain, or does it represent something more fundamental, a deeper aspect of existence that science has not yet fully explained? The Gnostics approached these questions through mythic narratives and symbolic cosmologies, but the underlying curiosity was profoundly philosophical. They were trying to understand whether the universe humans experience is the final layer of reality or only one stage within a much larger structure. Their writings suggest that the visible cosmos might be comparable to the surface of an ocean, a realm of waves and motion that hints at vast depths beneath. Even today, despite enormous advances in science and technology, humanity continues to grapple with these same mysteries. Whether one accepts the Gnostic explanation or not, their philosophy introduces a provocative possibility that the material universe might not represent the ultimate level of existence. Instead, it could be only one layer within a far more expansive reality that remains largely hidden from ordinary perception. Throughout history, many philosophical traditions have entertained similar ideas, the suggestion that the world humans experience through their senses may not fully capture the deeper structure of existence. The Gnostics expressed this concept through symbolic stories about divine realms, cosmic creators, and hidden sparks of consciousness. But the essence of their idea was remarkably simple: reality might be more complex than it appears. Just as the surface of the ocean conceals immense depths below, the visible universe could conceal layers of existence that remain beyond the reach of ordinary perception. From this perspective, the stars, galaxies, and laws of physics that science studies might represent only one level of a larger cosmic architecture. The universe could be far more mysterious than humanity has yet imagined, a multilayered structure of reality in which the physical world occupies only a single dimension within a much broader continuum of existence. If such a possibility were true, it would transform the way humanity understands consciousness and the meaning of human life. Instead of viewing awareness as merely the product of chemical reactions in the brain, a temporary phenomenon that disappears when the body ceases to function, consciousness might represent something far more profound. It could act as a bridge between different layers of reality. The human body, composed of matter and biological processes, would belong to the physical system of the universe. But consciousness itself, the mysterious sense of I am that observes thoughts, emotions, and experiences, might originate from somewhere beyond that system. This perspective suggests that the human mind is not entirely confined to the material world. Instead, it might carry traces of a deeper origin, a connection to a level of existence that transcends physical structures. The Gnostics believed that this connection is precisely what gives human beings their unique capacity for reflection and self-awareness. The ability to question reality, to wonder about the nature of existence, and to search for meaning might itself be evidence that consciousness is reaching beyond the boundaries of the material universe from which the body emerged. And perhaps this leads to the most unsettling and fascinating idea hidden within Gnostic teachings. If the material world is only a temporary stage within a larger structure of reality, then the purpose of human existence might not simply be survival, accumulation, or social success. Instead, life could represent an opportunity for awakening, a moment within a vast cosmic story where consciousness has the chance to recognize its own deeper origin. According to the Gnostics, the material world functions almost like a dream in which awareness has temporarily forgotten itself. People become absorbed in the dramas of daily life, ambitions, fears, conflicts, and achievements that seem overwhelmingly important in the moment. Yet beneath all of this activity lies a quieter possibility, the chance that consciousness might begin to question the nature of the reality surrounding it. The moment those questions arise, something subtle begins to change. The illusion of permanence starts to weaken, and the mind becomes open to deeper exploration. In that sense, the search for truth becomes more than a philosophical exercise. It becomes a journey of remembrance, the gradual rediscovery of a connection to a deeper reality that may have been present within human awareness all along.